Hello and welcome to I don't know what episode this is, the sixth episode of Dev Dialog podcast. I'm your host, Liz Nix, and today my guest is Brent M. Clark. Brent is a full stack principal software engineer with 17 years of experience. Brent, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a ton for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, I've been very excited for this conversation. I was really pleased when you agreed to join me. So we'll just jump right into it. And why don't you tell us about how you got into tech?
My origin story is similar to a lot of people who've been in the industry for a while. I was young, got my hands on a computer, started tinkering around with early DOS and Windows, and then that led me down the path of making batch files and goofing around there, and kind of always had that programming bug. It stayed with me through my youth, and got out of high school and eventually started teaching myself programming. And right around the time that kind of CSS was just coming out, JavaScript was still not the official, only client-side language of the browser. So that era, that dates me a bit. I just got into the industry. I did officially, go to school for and have my first job in IT, like desktop support, that kind of thing. But eventually parlayed that into a software engineering gig, and that's the short version anyway. So go MS-DOS.
Very cool. I'm actually not very familiar with MS-DOS. Do you can you expand a little bit about maybe I am. I know my first computer was just a very old, like IBM orange, font on a black screen. Was that running DOS maybe?
Sure, could have been. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, there's the classic like monochrome or single colored text on black background type thing. Yep, bulletin boards and multi-user dungeons. I don't know, that whole era.
Oh yeah,
that stuff. Yep,
for sure.
Very possible that was DOS or some other flavor of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So what are you working on currently? What's your favorite project that is going on for you right now?
My favorite thing to work on is a side project. I'm slowly, passively kind of starting a side business that hopefully will make me ones of dollars someday on the internet. It'll be great. But it's really just more of a passion project. I am making something for first class mail tracking. So just sending letters in the mail, but you want to track it yourself. And it's super fun to work on. It's just like the stack I really appreciate and enjoy. It's the Prisma and Next.js and reactive. And just get to go in there and make little tweaks here and there, and work on it as time permits, which isn't always possible with a full-time job and a family and all that kind of stuff. So it just keeps me focused on a task and a tech stack that I really appreciate working in.
It's amazing. Can you tell me more about Prisma? I'm not very familiar with it at all.
Yep. So Prisma is an ORM. I think Drizzle is out there. Somebody just tweeted one at me today that I got to check out as well. But yeah, ultimately just a node ORM. So you define the schema in a file, and then there's some commands you can use to generate the database. And it also supports migrations.
Nice.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, good. I was just wondering, what, for me, that's the part I picked up because it's the new to me part. I'm curious what aspect of that project is the most engaging for you.
I really like, so I'm new to the Stripe API. That's been really fun to work with, or just Stripe in general. That's been really fun to work with. Deploying it on Vercel has been really fun to work with. I've done a lot of Next.js. you do Next.js quite a bit as well, as I understand, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, there we go. Next.js. This one is purely app router. So I've kind of made that transition over, and it's been interesting and enjoyable kind of working through that, how it differs from the pages router. That's been fun. Yeah, all of it. I just love it.
Yeah, I can share that sort of passion for new things. I haven't made the jump yet to the app router, but is there anything about that, like anything you can tell me, any tips and tricks or pitfalls to avoid when I do?
The page portion of it is very similar. A couple of things are different, but where I found the most variability is in the API side, right? So in Pages Router, you would do an API subfolder and then make your page from there. And you would, I'm trying to remember, geez, now it's been a bit. The way that you would export the methods is just very different from how you do it now in the app router. The app router, you export names. You have a kind of a file per endpoint in the API, and that's not quite true. A file per, I don't know, a domain object really, and you export one function per method. So get, post, put, delete, that kind of thing. And that has been very different, but something that when I was working in Python, I enjoyed working on, working with that methodology. And so seeing that over in the node space through Next.js has been really cool. It's a little weird to work with in some ways, but and the documentation isn't always there. It's a little new and they're still sorting it out, but it's been fun to trudge through it and sort it out. Sounds like I should maybe write up something about about my journey.
Yeah, it's very cool. And especially when you're at a time when you're adopting something that doesn't have fully fleshed out documentation, it's so helpful to the community when you do sort of, create anytime you come up against a hurdle and the solution isn't already out there, putting it out there is a great thing to do.
Yeah, I should definitely do that. I've also amassed a bunch of similar type things with the Next.auth. I decided to take that on as I was going through as well. Wanted to see what made that tick, and of course I can't just do it the easy way. So I didn't just do SSO. I implemented email, username and password auth, just standard auth, and Next.auth is very outspoken about not really supporting it, and so you have to kind of go way out of your way to get it to work.
Interesting.
It's been quite interesting.
Wow. I'm struggling with the auth issue myself currently, and I know how much pain that can cause. Haven't worked with Next.auth at all though. And what's been your experience of that versus other authentication systems?
A lot of times I've written my own, and it's either been exclusive, not written my own necessarily, but written over the top of an existing framework. And Next.auth is really great for things like OAuth, right? It's like an import and a couple of pieces of information, and you just magically got Google Auth or GitHub Auth or whatever rolling. So that part's incredibly straightforward. But as soon as you want to implement your own unique authentication pages, for example, or implement credentials auth, it's you're off the rails. And so that's really different from other implementations I've used, because usually they're more turnkey. You just sort of use what they already have, and it's ready to go. I think that's the short answer anyway.
Yeah. So what was the sticking point for you that made you want to go with username or email password credentials?
The business partner I'm working with just kind of asked one day, hey, will there be credentials authentication? And I said, it's not an out of the box thing, but let me see if I can make it work. And then I just started going with it. It was mostly just kind of a combination of, this is a little odd potentially for our prospective audience to not have it, and just an abundance of curiosity. I've never had to pretty much roll all of that myself, so that was wanted to take that on as a challenge.
Yeah, I get you. I think that that's the main reason we do most things we do, is because a stakeholder wants it or it makes sense for the audience. And the second main reason we do anything we do is to see if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are doing Next Auth as well, and Pages. It sounds like Pages router.
Yeah, I'm doing Pages. I'm actually, it's a Next.js front end for a Shopify store.
Okay.
And it's kind of it's a legacy Shopify store. So when we made the Next.js front end, it's was pre-Themes 2.0, pre-Hydrogen. So it was really, it's very homespun, because it was before they had the architecture there to really support it. And so now that Shopify's making changes to the way that they authenticate, because they have new checkout and a new user, new customer login system, which gets away from credentials. It's basically like you get a 6-digit code in your email or texted to you to log in. And so again, for us, that's a big change for the audience as well. And we wouldn't even make the switch except for their B2B platform, since they deprecated their wholesale channel, which was kind of like a standalone, entirely different experience. Now we're making a blended storefront. So nice. So it's great, except that I have credentialed auth on the front end, and I also have to now use the code to your email method for those wholesale customers. And
like a magic link, is that what you mean? Like, I gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. And so it almost works. It almost works. I have a situation right now where I authenticate the B2B user. They see their appropriate pricing, appropriate quantity constraints, because they have minimum order quantities that they can use. Everything looks great on the front end. When I send it to checkout, they're getting retail pricing instead of wholesale pricing.
Oh, fascinating.
But if you go back to the headless storefront and then back to checkout a second time, it works.
Oh, so it's shouldiblame.caching.com? Is that what's going on, basically?
Yeah, maybe. That's great. I have no idea. I've been just really scrutinizing my network tab between, like, I'll have one tab open where I've only gone to checkout one time, and so it's the wrong pricing, and then another tab where I did back and forth and I get the right pricing, and then I'm just like, what's the difference here? What's going on? How do I replicate it? It's driving me crazy. And of course, Shopify support said that's out of scope. Please go to the forums. And I go to the forums, and it's basically crickets there. So.
Wow. Yeah, that does not sound. It does not sound like fun. Hopefully you have some time, I guess, to focus on it.
Yeah, for sure. So thankfully, our existing wholesale users are still able to go through the legacy way. The channel still works for them. It just doesn't work for us as far as adding or updating either new wholesale customers or changing pricing. So it's definitely important to solve, but it's not. I have some time, luckily.
Good.
Yeah, but it has been like, it's been my only focus for the last 2 weeks. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you have a problem that feels like almost impossible, but you can't give up. But that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, I had something on that, in that same vein, where I was told at work a handful of months ago that we were switching to we're moving our entire ERP to the cloud, and that meant what came along with that. That alone wasn't a huge deal, but what came along with that is we no longer had direct database access to the ERP, and we had like 15 years of legacy code, all predicated on being able to directly access the database. We had to overhaul all of it in like 4 months.
Wow.
And the programming language to get that done was something I had never touched before. So I had to learn that and then and then migrate this whole API in a very short amount of time. And it's a small company, so it's not, we're not talking about like Twitter level problems or anything of that nature, but still, It was an awful lot of surface area and an awful lot of business rules, and you can imagine the documentation was lacking. So it was quite an endeavor. I know that feeling, where you're like, I'm the only person, I got to sort it out. And you kind of keep going. I bet you it's something that you are quite adept at.
Yep. Hopefully by the time this airs, I'll have it solved.
I wish you the best. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. I'm actually curious about this cloud migration for your ERP. Like, so that's an extremely short timeline, 4 months.
Yep.
And to have to learn a language. I mean, once you've learned a few languages, at least for me, I feel like I could probably learn just about any language, given enough time and the right instruction. Sure. Right. So, but not in 4 months to complete like a business critical sort of task like that. So I'm very impressed, first of all, that you managed to do that, and also curious what did you fully hit all your objectives in that timeline, or were there things that you had to sort of trim off, or have like save for a version 2, or just abandon altogether?
That's a great question. The original scope was intended to be absolutely everything on the legacy API, but we definitely trimmed that back to just only the things that were mandatory to move. Anything that dealt with touching that ERP. Some of it was touching other parts of other systems. So we left those, and those will be transitioned over the next on a much more sustainable pace. But yeah, I had no idea if I was going to make it there either, but it was one of those things, just didn't have a whole lot of choice. So cleared the decks, and I got a lot of heads down time, and managed to get through it.
It's amazing.
It was thankfully it was, it sounds like you're familiar with wholesale in general, and probably some supply chain and logistics stuff. So once you've met the world of sales orders and inventory management, all of that, you can transfer that knowledge pretty seamlessly between systems. They're all very similar. And the way that the programming language is called AL, it's by Microsoft, and it's dedicated to their ERP system. Very strange. But anyways, they do a really good job with it. You pretty much just invoke one of these objects and then filter against it. It reminds me a lot of using NORM, like Prisma or anything like that, where you have an object in memory, and then you have to learn the ORM syntax a little bit, and then from there, you get the objects and you can interact with them. So little bit of domain knowledge and a little bit of tech knowledge came together to give me a fighting chance to get that done on time.
That's great. That's so how many product SKUs were you working with?
Can you be more specific? Sorry, what do you mean by product? Like technical products?
Yeah. So ERP, like supply chain. I guess a better way to say is how many objects were you moving from that?
Oh yeah. So it mostly dealt with pricing and a little bit of order creation. So not a ton of different objects. Probably, I don't know, a dozen tops. Nothing too wild.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Well, that's exciting. That was quite a thrilling tale, to be honest.
I'm glad to be done with it for sure.
I bet.
But now I got to support the thing, right? That's what happens when you take stuff on and you say yes. You got to support it too. So
Yeah,
keep that moving.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
same for you. You got the new authentication methods for Shopify, and you'll have to, I'm sure, sort that out. Hopefully, they don't keep magic links forever. Hopefully, they add new auth options. Or
We'll see. It's kind of funky in the way that they're doing things because, well, some of the changes they're making, they're setting a deadline. The old way is deprecated as of this date, and then some things with the customer authentication and the new customer account system, there's no deadline set to change that over, except for the wholesale to B2B conversion. So
sure.
it's like it's kind of it's a strange mess, and I think within the next, I don't know, like I kind of give them 5 years to sort it all out to where it's not a huge pain to run a large e-commerce shop with them again.
Okay. Well, yeah, hopefully we get there. It's funny, the B2B customers kind of getting, more forcefully pushed into new technology directions than the B2C customers. That seems to always be the case, right?
Right.
B2B customers will adapt, but
yeah, well, because I mean, they get the white glove treatment, right? So even if they don't adapt, they can just like pick up the phone and call somebody, and
right,
we'll take care of them. So there is that.
It's a great point.
Yeah. So enough about Shopify. I don't know. Let's talk about the industry in general, and I think how are you feeling about the current state of everything?
Yeah, just the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Many mixed feelings, as I'm sure most people have. I think somebody had made a point a while back. I forget who, so I apologize, but really thought it was well articulated that there's a strong correlation between interest rates and developer activity, in the sense of how easily and cheaply money comes to the world, and what that means for companies, starting new fledgling projects or startups in general, and then what that sort of cascades into from the way we approach the creation of software. And I think that's a really interesting point at the end of the day, because I see it, I feel it. I think people are a little bit less cowboy than they were a handful of years ago with the creation of software. We're all, taking a step back and focusing a bit more on the creation of value instead of the creation of impressive technologies. At least that's what it feels like to me. So that's something that I see happening. I think it's healthy for us as an industry to just get a good healthy dose of hey, we're here for a reason, and we really need to produce this value, which I just appreciate quite a bit. Not that people aren't out there producing value all the time, but there was always I think there's 10% or so, it felt like, of what we were doing was just exploring new stuff on the while creating other things, and I think we're doing a little bit less of that these days, just due to the fact that money is not quite as easily achieved at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, and I think I saw the thing you referenced that said that, but I think that I really enjoyed your explanation of it. I've definitely witnessed that myself. We've sort of gone from a place where, I don't know, the tech nerds kind of ruled the world for a minute, and we got to do whatever we wanted. We, just exploring technology because it was fun to do, and I think we've got a little bit of a wake up call or reality check with just all like massive layoffs and how hard it is to find work now doing this. So yeah, definitely it's time to actually make sure that we are creating value.
Yeah, I don't want us to always be doing that. For example, I'm over here not creating value in my personal time, making an app, and I might get on a good week 4 hours, 6 hours to work on it. So it's very but I'm doing it for the enjoyment of it, for the enjoyment of programming. And that part I have seen a lot of people do. That seems to be the theme on Twitter now, is side projects and people tinkering. And I think just kind of getting back to our roots a little bit about creating things for the joy of it. But on the side now, not necessarily at work. So I think that's kind of a healthy balance that we're starting to strike. Pendulum swinging back the other way a little bit. So I enjoy that for sure. I like seeing it, and I love seeing people's things that they're creating, buying coffee on the terminal, and that's really fun, really cool to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love it. I will say though, I liked your point about that, the industry and it being more challenging to get a job. I feel really bad about there's a whole ton of people that surged through the education system, the boot camps of the world and the self-taughts, and just a handful of years ago. And a lot of them now are struggling to get into the industry still. So that's been very challenging. Not that they were before, but it feels like it's a lot harder now. There's a lot of saturation in the market with developer talent, and that makes it really difficult for people who are kind of just getting started to get a foothold in the industry. And also it felt like it shifted a bit, where it used to be you could go and get an education on pretty much just front end development, and that was enough. And now it doesn't feel like it's enough anymore. I don't know if you've got that feeling as well, but I can't quite articulate it, if everyone just needs to be full stack these days, if that's kind of the new hot thing, or what it is. But front end doesn't seem to be enough in many cases.
I've seen that too, because there just are so many people doing it. But I think that it's important to go where your interests lead you and your passions lead you. I kind of like that it's not exactly a draw for people who are just looking to make a lot of money the easiest way possible much anymore, because you're never going to not need some front end development, but it's important to diversify your skill set. So I heard a speaker once, he put it, you want to have like a T-shaped skill set. So a little bit about a lot of things, and then in one area you go deep and you specialize. And I think that's pretty valid now. And what I would say to anybody starting out and getting that front end development education is to find the part of it that speaks to you the most, that really excites you and makes you want to learn more and pursue that, and let it take you either to the front of the front end with UX design, right? And get super nerdy about accessibility and performance and CRO testing, and learn Figma and go heavy into that. Or if it's more of the technical aspects of things like connecting APIs, or anything that's more code, more about what the code looks like and less about what the product looks like, then go deep into programming, learn some programming languages, and that's a great way to increase your value.
I think it's really, really well stated. Absolutely. Yeah. I love the T-shape reference. I've certainly caught that before as well. And there's no better way, right, to be a valuable prospect on the job market is to come with that kind of both breadth and depth, if if possible. I love that. The and you made a point on about front end dev being still valuable. Absolutely, I agree with that too. It feels like it's not enough right now, which I lament, because I feel like it should be. And I say that as a person who's had a career focus on front end, and it should be enough. And I hopefully things come swing back again and settle down to the point where we can kind of get back to it, and people can specialize very deeply in that. But at this exact moment in time, it feels like there's less of those opportunities out there. From the world that I'm viewing anyways. So to your point, hopefully, people who are in that position reach out a little bit, pick up an extra skill, but stay on that top part of the T, and learn some brand new stuff in that way. I think that's really cool. Well stated.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say for people who really are drawn to this career path, like anywhere in the tech industry, where if you really feel like that's your calling, like I did, don't be discouraged by the current market. I remember back in, I think it was like 2002 or 2003, I was transferring from a community college to a university, and I told a friend of mine that I was going to pursue web development, and she said, "Don't you think the market's really oversaturated for that right now?" And, I still went on to build like an almost 20-year career on it. So yeah. I think that it will come around again. Like you said, it'll swing back around, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to come.
Yep, absolutely. Do you, on that note, so I'm a volunteer mentor, and a lot of the people I interact with are people who are fresh out of boot camps, or have been self-taught, and maybe they're just into their first or second year of self-education, and I spend a lot of time in that space. So I'm a very I feel a lot of what that community feels. So do you do any mentoring is ultimately my question.
Only in the capacity of mentoring junior developers who work with me. Okay. I would love to get kind of tapped into a professional network here. I lived in California for most of my life. And then about 5 years ago, moved to Texas. So I haven't found that I guess I haven't really pursued it, right? Because I'm in the Austin area. There's got to be something like that. But also, it's a little scary being as old as I am.
Not at all. It shouldn't be. You've got the most.
That's good. Thank you. That's very encouraging. I might have to look into that. And then, what would you suggest for ways of getting into mentoring?
Well, I think that. Hold on. I do it on a free platform, and I really like it. I can give a link for the show notes if you want to distribute it later. But I really enjoy the platform. Really enjoyed the space in general. I think but it doesn't have to be on that platform or anywhere else. Just like you were saying, even if it's at work, find somebody and mentor them. One of the things I'm really passionate about in that world is, there's a lot of people who are out there making really great content right now, and all of us have access to it. But what I've noticed is, particularly for people on the early side of their journey, is someone to help them glue all of that together is missing. And so that direct one-on-one or one-on-a-few type scenario, where you can really help people put together these puzzle pieces that just aren't quite fitting for them, seems to have kind of outsized value. An hour of my time can really unlock somebody for several weeks or months worth of their their next the next part of their journey. So I think that's really cool. I think it's something that we as more senior engineers we should be doing. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't bring me value as well. I don't have time to go out there and scour the world for what all the new tech is. So when I'm mentoring people, they're sometimes bringing that stuff to me and I learn through them. I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that is. What is it? And I ask and I learn, oh, it's an ORM I've never heard of, or it's a competitor to Express or something like that. And then you do a little digging and you can kind of map what you know to what it is. And it helps fill in that broader picture of the ecosystem that's out there. But that's the benefit that I found for sure, other than just helping people get to where they want to be as well.
I love that. I think that I really owe a lot of my growth, my career growth, and my just deeper understanding of how certain things work to people who've mentored me along the way. And I would love to give back. And I also can definitely second what you said about people who you mentor bringing you new technology. I know that I wouldn't have ever given Rust or Go a second look if it
Sure.
hadn't been for those types of interactions.
Oh yeah, that's perfect examples. And the lift as you climb analogy, right? You got to where you are, somebody was helping you, now you turn around, help the next people. Not everyone has headspace or time to do that, so nobody should feel any amount of guilt if they're not. It's just more so, aim to find a time at some point in your career to reach back and grab the hand behind you and help people make their next step. I think that's something that we just can do as an industry. For all the talk we have about apprenticeships and people learning and all that kind of stuff, I think that that coaching and mentoring is a really great way to do that, especially if you can do it for free for the people who who just need that hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I would love to put a link to that platform in the show notes if you want to shoot that over later. I think, yeah, it's awesome to have a resource like that.
Yeah, I don't mean to be evasive. It's called Coding Coach. It's been around for a while.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I will certainly shoot you that over.
Tight. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for you or anybody who's out there, if anybody's interested, hit me up on Twitter, my DMs or whatever, and ask questions. I'd love to talk about it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for making yourself available as a resource. I think that's really something. I mean, it's cool.
I appreciate it.
So what are you looking forward to in the future?
Specific to the tech industry, it's hard not to talk about AI in that space. In response to that question, I'm a bit of a late adopter on the AI. Maybe, yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. I think that it has a lot of potential. Where it's currently at isn't as impressive as I was kind of hoping it would be. But at the same time, sometimes I'm thoroughly impressed. Copilot or Codium, what they have to recommend, or some of the responses I get back out of ChatGPT, sometimes they catch me off guard. I'm like, wow, that's really impressive that you're able to do that. So that part's really cool, and just to see that grow and what it can become, as far as we're kind of becoming a second brain for us and helping all of us be a lot more efficient, I think will be really cool. Especially the code explanation portions, I think that's really impressive. I get value out of the automated code writing. It takes a lot of the boring parts out. You as well, you've been doing this for 20 years. You probably know exactly what you want. And the only thing now between you and the destination is you actually have to bang out the keys on the keyboard. And so anything that can help speed that up is obviously value producing. But on the flip side, for people who are on the earlier side, or even us when we're learning something new, the ability to just ask ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever to explain a chunk of code is really cool. I've gotten a lot of value out of that for sure, as I'm out there just exploring new worlds and new approaches and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, AI for sure. I'll pause there. I have a tendency to talk way too much, so give me a moment.
Oh no, that's great. That's what we're here for. I actually enjoy doing this podcast so much because I get to listen to people like you, and I love that I'm asking the same 4 questions in every podcast, but every conversation is so unique, and just it's been really kind of diverse, and the opinions on AI have been one of the most varied topics that we cover here. AI, it's some people are scared of it or angry about it. And a lot of people really see its value not as a replacement, but as a tool to help facilitate what we do. And so I like that. I'm a optimist at heart, so I prefer that perspective, but definitely interested in seeing where it goes.
Well, I think back when I think about AI, I think back to the early days of programming, and particularly the web. There was this fear that everybody's jobs were going to be replaced by software. And I think we can all at this point, 30 years in the future, take a deep breath and look around and confirm that did not happen. Certain jobs, sure, maybe, but or parts of jobs got replaced, but in most cases, many cases, everyone's still here, everyone's still working, everyone didn't become a software engineer. And even in certain, in some spaces, the world just creates new activities so fast that we can't all keep up. And I think that's going to be the case for AI as well. It has to learn from existing models, and it can't do that until we as humanity have created a corpus for it to learn from. So it'll always be behind us. It'll always be many, many steps behind us as humans. So I don't view it as a threat in that sense.
Great. So what else?
Yeah. Geez. So I said I was learning the Stripe API earlier. I think that's really, really cool stuff. And I'd love to learn more about Shopify as well, because I don't know a whole ton about it. But that whole world of, to think that a single person, a single engineer can spin up a SaaS product in a weekend by just kind of Frankensteining a handful of frameworks and APIs together in this day and age. It's just absolutely incredible. I really appreciate that a lot. I think that the ability for folks with enough with enough interest and an idea to be able to put all that together is really just gonna get better. And I really look forward to that, to seeing more of people's ideas, more so than the low level code, right? The more we abstract, the higher up we go, we get more ideas out into the world, and I love it. I'm super excited to see where that goes.
Are there any emerging products or projects that you've seen that are examples of this or speak to what's possible?
Well, the one that the Twitter universe, I guess, will be most familiar with would be the Terminal Coffee example that spun up from React Miami. I don't know how long they worked on that, but it sounded like they did it pretty much on location, which I think is pretty darn incredible. That's the one that comes to mind for sure, that everyone would be the most familiar with. I'm sure there's tons of examples out there, but mostly I'm just referring to my own experience of being able to sit down and use an API like that and get really far really fast, where a handful of years ago, even, it took so much more effort to get something like that stood up. And now it's like in an afternoon, you can get an entire digital shop up and running. That's just unheard of.
Yeah, true. Just hours, really, if you're driven or not a perfectionist. I know that's what keeps me. But as you're talking about these things, I'm thinking to myself, why am I not doing that? And it's because I overthink it, like everything. And then
keep going. Sorry.
No, so when I sit down to, actually bang it out on the keyboard, it's it just isn't coming together. Like I haven't built the website for this show yet, as an example, because I was just I started it. It's in my local environment, and I didn't immediately love what I was creating, so I stopped working on it and haven't picked it up in weeks.
All right. Yeah, I know that feeling. I've definitely been there. I think we should talk about that a bit, because I think that's a space that everybody is at a different point in their journey. And I think the journey is also very different for different people. Some people who are deep technologists they know exactly what they want and how they're going to do it, and they just go and they get it. That's what it feels like anyways. And what it seems like to me is they know how to do it and really get it out there really fast. And that's always impressed me. And then on the flip side, and myself included, sometimes you don't know where to start. And that mentality of how do you get from 0 to 1 is a really big area of focus, I think, for the entire industry. And thinking back to the things I was just saying about what I'm excited about, and people being able to, make more products and get them out to the world. It's such an evolving space. And a lot of it, from my perspective anyways, has to deal with just the psychology of it, right? Of pushing yourself to do that and to get it out there, not just, sit down and make the project one day, but to come back each and every time and be consistent and get it out. Consistent's the wrong word, I guess. But just to keep going, right? You don't have to every Monday at 8 a.m. to noon do it, but being able to get in enough time, get in the reps every week or whatever your cadence is, I think is so important. Is this the only project that you've with your website? Is that the only one you kind of feel that with, or do you get that same early feeling, the butterfly feeling on every project, or stuff at work, or just in your personal life?
For the most part, I would say within the last year or two, every project, it's just like it doesn't spark joy anymore, like it used to. Like these conversations do, and putting these out, and creating the thumbnails and releasing them. I have a lot of fun with that. So it's kind of the actual building with code is less and less exciting to me.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you earlier in this conversation said, and I thought it was really well stated, is, if there's an area that you're passionate in, just dive deeper, right? Let the curiosity lead you. I think that's fantastic. Absolutely. So in that, since you don't have that same, kind of, in my words, friction to get started and keep going, what have you noticed to be different between that and the website project, for example?
It feels like I'm allowing myself to be bad at this, or like, because I'm just starting out, so it's fine if it's not,
Sure.
it is what it is, and it gets a little better every time, and I'm actually seeing those market improvements episode to episode, and that's exciting. And I'm learning as I go, as opposed to something that I've done a million times. And, like, I should be good at this, but this looks like crap. I hate it. So
Got it. Yeah, that's a good point. So the side project that I'm working on, which gets most of my out of work focus, is a totally different tech stack from work. And so I get to bounce back and forth between, a thing that it doesn't always spark joy at work. I like it sometimes, a little bit of a love-hate relationship with some of it, but then I get really excited when I get to focus on the thing I'm doing on the side as well. So maybe it's a little bit of that, right? It's just, if I'm hearing you correctly, if the task is similar to something that you've done a lot of times before, that it just doesn't, you don't have the same energy, I guess, to sit down and focus on it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. And I don't know. I think that, I came to this profession through a very art-centric education and background. And I've always wanted to be more creative than technical. And then I was just infatuated with the technical aspects for a long time. And now I'm getting back to more of that creative underpinnings that I was brought up with.
That's awesome. I love that. Have you noticed with with some of the people that you mentor at work, or anybody else having similar issues with starting up projects and just kind of finding the traction to move forward?
If anything, they really highlight, because of the contrast with how quickly that they're creating new projects. And like,
Okay.
I have one coworker who I think I've worked with him for a couple of years now, and he's on his third or fourth, like, just cool thing that he started up and doing. And it's like every weekend, on Monday, he's like, look what I built. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's so cool. I wish I could do that, but it's just not, I'm in a different spot in my life now, I think, is what it is.
Yeah. Yep. I feel that too. The young family and, the pullings of professional work just don't leave a lot of additional time for, for me to sit down and do that kind of stuff. So I struggle with that as well. Back to the mentoring point though, I kind of get to live vicariously through other people, like you were just saying, same thing. Some folks that work with really cool stuff, you get to dive in, learn a little bit about it and familiarize yourself with it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to have that. It is living vicariously through them for sure.
You had mentioned perfection as kind of a thing that was also impeding a little bit before. And I think that's such an important point that, and I really want to say that to anybody who watches this for, who's trying to start a project on their own, or even just at work. Maybe they're on the newer side. They've never started one before, or, only a few of them, whatever. That's something we need to fight in ourselves, right? We need to push that down and just get something out. That's my best advice, is put it out there. In fact, one of the approaches I took with the side project I'm working on is I pushed it to production. It looks like it does not, the first, handful of iterations, like not great at all. Broken, buggy, warts and all. I pushed it to prod. And while it was there sitting on prod, now it's gnawing at me. I'm like, oh gosh, I got this thing and it's on production and I haven't told anybody about it, but somebody might find it. And, now I gotta live with that. So that really has helped me push myself to keep going with it. And I bet you probably feel a lot of the same thing with the podcast, right? It's out there in the world and now it's a thing. It's got life. You breathe life into this and now you gotta maintain it. And I think that's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to overcome that perfectionist angle is just push to prod.
Ship early.
Yeah, I mean, like uncomfortably early. Not at work with a real product that real people are paying for, but if you're doing something on the side, my gosh, put it out there. You can leave a URL on the internet for years and no one will find it. Don't worry about it too much.
That's true. That's true. It's the video game developers should not probably heed that though.
Yes. Yeah. If you're making a full-blown project or product, right? A physical product or something that you're asking people to pay for, absolutely not. Don't take that. But if you're just trying to, get started on a project of some kind, just tinkering, let the perfectionism go. It's not helping you.
That's great advice. Thank you. I think I'll try to heed that myself.
Yeah, do it. Put it out there. That'll be awesome.
Definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to cover today?
No, I'm good. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been such a joy. Sometime feel free to have me back. I'd love to. We can talk about, I got lots of other stuff, but I'll keep it in the hopper for now. It'd be great.
Okay, great. Well, I definitely look forward to having you back again. And thanks again for being here today.
You're awesome. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.